3 days, one desert, and while the world was watching one team celebrate, another team was quietly sharpening its knife. Mercedes grabbed every headline, every timing screen, every morning newspaper on the planet screamed the same story. The Silver Arrows are back. But Ferrari's team principal, Fred Vasseur, sat down for his media debrief and said something that stopped the room cold. He said he liked that nobody was talking about Ferrari. That's not how you speak when you're losing. That's how you speak when you know something nobody else does. So the question isn't who was fastest in Bahrain, the real question is, what was Ferrari hiding? To understand what Ferrari built, you first need to understand what Formula One just destroyed. For years, the MGU-H kept turbochargers spinning between gear changes. It eliminated lag, it made starts clean, it made power delivery predictable. For 2026, it's gone. And without it, turbo lag is back. Brutal, violent, race-defining turbo lag that shows up most dramatically in one specific moment, the start. Gabriel Bortoleto, last year's Formula 2 champion, stood in front of the cameras after 3 days of testing and described the new start procedure like this: complicated, chaotic, a mess. After 5 seconds, he'd already lost count. This is a championship-winning driver on a quiet Tuesday in a test session with no pressure. Now, imagine 22 cars on the Melbourne grid with the world watching. Franco Colapinto's Alpine nearly collected the wall before it even reached the grid. Sergio Perez's Cadillac couldn't move at all. Multiple cars stalled across 3 days. The 2026 season opener could be the most chaotic race start Formula One has ever seen. But that was just the start, because 12 months ago, Ferrari's engineers made a decision that nobody noticed, and that decision just turned into a weapon. Ferrari chose a smaller turbocharger than their competitors. On paper, it sounds modest, almost conservative. But here's what that actually means on track. A smaller turbo spools faster, less mass, less inertia, cleaner response, and crucially, an easier, more manageable race start. George Russell noticed it from inside his Mercedes cockpit. He said Ferrari seemed able to run higher gears than other manufacturers, which probably means a smaller turbo underneath. Gary Anderson went deeper. Ferrari-powered cars held second gear during the start procedure. Everyone else dropped to first just to keep their turbo speed alive. That's not software. That's not strategy. That's a fundamental difference in engine architecture. But here's where it stops being clever engineering and becomes something else entirely. When rival teams realized Ferrari's smaller turbo gave them a start advantage, they proposed a regulation change: extend the preparation window, give bigger turbos more time to spool up, level the playing field. Ferrari blocked it. They voted against the change. And because the regulations required consensus, the proposal died. Ferrari protected an engineering decision they made a year earlier by using the political system to erase their competitors' only path to catching up. That's not racing, that's strategic warfare. Now look at what they brought to Bahrain itself. Ferrari arrived at the Barcelona shakedown with what they internally called the Spec A baseline, a deliberately conservative car designed to collect reference data, not to impress, not to threaten, to measure. Then Bahrain arrived and the upgrades began flowing. A completely revised front wing, a flatter main plane creating uniform airflow into the underfloor, floor edges recut to manage tire wake turbulence, and a diffuser that technical journalist Sam Collins described as featuring beautiful, intricate aerodynamic elements, more aggressive than anything Mercedes or Williams brought to the circuit. Ferrari engineers were privately calling the SF-26 an airplane. And underneath all of it, one engine. The same power unit that ran at Barcelona's shakedown also completed all 3 days in Bahrain, approximately 4,500 kilometers, roughly 7.5 Grand Prix distances, 0 unplanned stoppages. Mercedes, meanwhile, ran through multiple power unit configurations and still had Andrea Kimi Antonelli break down twice: a day 1 suspension failure, a day 2 engine change forced after just 3 laps. Andrew Shovlin admitted the team spent far longer in the garage than they would have liked. Ferrari's only red flag? Lewis Hamilton running the car deliberately until the fuel tank ran dry, a controlled consumption test, not a failure, an experiment. When McLaren's Andrea Stella, a man who rarely overstates anything, confirmed that Ferrari and Mercedes appeared quicker than McLaren in race simulations, the paddock listened. Here's what all of this means. Ferrari enters 2026 with a turbo advantage baked into the architecture, and they've already blocked rivals from legislating it away. They've brought the most aggressive aerodynamic package to Bahrain and haven't even revealed their Race 1 specification yet. Their power unit survived 7 Grand Prix distances on a single build, and their lead driver completed more laps than anyone else on the grid. But remember what happened in 2022, the last time Formula One had a regulation reset of this scale. Ferrari was fastest at the first test. They won the first 2 races. Then Red Bull's development pace ate them alive, and Verstappen wrapped up the championship with 4 races to spare. The lesson was brutal. The team that develops fastest wins regulation reset years, not the team that starts fastest. Ferrari learned it. Vasseur said months before the car turned a wheel that 2026 would not be about the first picture of the season, it would be about development capacity. Barcelona was Phase 1, Bahrain was Phase 2. The second test, beginning February 18th, brings the Race 1 specification, a hefty upgrade package designed to be the actual Melbourne car. Every lap Hamilton and Leclerc completed wasn't about lap times, it was data, wind tunnel correlation, tire behavior, energy consumption maps, the cartography of an unknown concept. And that data feeds directly into the next upgrade cycle. Scenario 1. Ferrari's stage development plan executes perfectly. The Race 1 spec arrives in Melbourne already 2 steps ahead. The season becomes a controlled march, not a comeback, but a coronation. Scenario 2, Mercedes' engine efficiency advantage is real, and Ferrari's joint letter to the FIA alongside Honda and Audi claiming up to 0.3 per lap becomes the defining political battle of the year. Not one on track, one in a meeting room. Scenario 3, Red Bull's engine terrifies the entire paddock. Toto Wolff called it the benchmark. Carlos Sainz confirmed it was a clear step ahead. But their own technical director admits their chassis sits behind Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren. A monster engine, a car their own engineers say isn't good enough. And Verstappen left Bahrain early, calling the cars not a lot of fun. Dynasties don't end on fast laps, they end when the foundation cracks. Vasseur said there are now 10 to 15 different ways teams can hide their true performance. In past years, there were 2 or 3. So what we saw in Bahrain, was that the story or just the prologue? Ferrari is smiling because the cameras are pointed elsewhere, and in Formula One, the most dangerous team is never the loudest one in the room. When the lights go out in Melbourne, then we'll know what was really built in the desert.